Okay, we're with Sandy Izer with the South Saskatchewan Independent Living Centre. Sandy, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your mobility device and why you use it?
About myself, I'm 40 years old. I'm a mom, a wife. I work full time. I work for a nonprofit, and I was born with spina bifida, so I've used different types of devices throughout the years. I've had this particular one for a year and a half-ish. It's a electric wheelchair with mid-wheel drive.
All right. What features of the chair do you really appreciate?
Not very many. I'll be honest, there's not many that I do like. I like the control to move. It's fairly sensitive and reacts really well. What I don't like is the tires. I don't like the tires. I don't like the mid-wheel drive. It has horrible traction. It's not very comfortable to sit in, although we've been working on that for a year and a half. It's too low to the ground, so people don't see you and they trip on you all the time.
All right. Have you had other chairs that you've liked better?
Prior to this, I've had 4 or 5 scooters that looked more like golf carts. So not as useful in the house because they were much longer and much bigger, and the turning radius was a lot worse. But for outdoors and for shopping and for shopping for a family and things like that, it was much more useful.
All right. So why do you use this chair as opposed to another scooter?
I was talked into it. Honestly, I was asked to give it a try because we moved to a different place. For inside mobility, it's really good because you can live in a place with narrower hallways, narrower doorways, smaller turning radiuses, things like that. So that is the upside to this chair, and that's why I was asked to try to switch. I'm glad I did for that purpose, but for living life outside of my home, it's not as useful.
Okay. Would you ever consider using 2 different chairs for different purposes, or is that a problem?
Well, funding is the problem. Funding is the problem. I've gotten this one through Wascana Rehabilitation Center, and my scooters I get through the Kinsman. Whether or not I will get the next one I apply for when I apply to the Kinsman, I don't know. I have my old scooter, and we're working on trying to get it so I can use both internally and outside.
Okay. If money wasn't an object, what would be your dream mobility device?
A scooter that had a better turning radius, or a wheelchair that you could actually push a cart with or do shopping with and not need help. To be the wife and mother and to do all those things and carry stuff, it's just not useful, and you're too low to the ground and people don't see you. If you walk through a clothing aisle, you disappear. I'm shorter than the clothes are. Even in the children's section. So those are some of the things that I get frustrated with.
Okay. Speaking to people who don't have any disabilities, what are some of the things that we take for granted that maybe we shouldn't?
Anything having to do in wintertime. Going to the store in the wintertime, everyone, I think, takes for granted. What do we take for granted? Getting through doorways, reaching things on a counter. I think silly things like, our coffee maker, even here, that's pushed all the way to the back. I can't get close enough to pull it, to reach it. Reaching things that are put up high, reaching things that fall on the ground, carrying things that are heavy or awkward, carrying a drink. I had to carry this cup from my office and had, just about spilled it like 4 times. So all kinds of things like that other people don't have to think about.
All right.
And then everything is figured out.
So eventually you're able to.
But every time you switch chairs or things change with your chair, you have to figure them out again. You have to figure out how to transfer. You have to figure out how to go to the bathroom. You have to figure out how to get into a vehicle, how to get dressed, everything, how to get in the shower. All of those things you have to renegotiate depending on what your chair is.
Okay. Now, when you're out in public, say in a mall, what are some things that you wish people would do that they don't, or you wish that they wouldn't do that they always seem to want to do with you?
Well, we either have the people who are too helpful, that want to do everything for you, and I mean, I appreciate help. It's not that I don't appreciate help, but you have people who are like, you know, just overly helpful. If you say, no, I've got it, then, you know, please respect that. No, I've got it. But then there are times when you ask for help and there's just nobody around in the world to, you know, to reach the box on the top shelf. It seems that if I shop by myself, it's always on the top shelf, or whatever I want. So those kind of things. Shopping, having just people, like when you're going through aisles, like if they trip on you, they blame you for bad driving. When in reality, they probably backed up and turned around without even looking where they were going, and they didn't see you.
Now,
I've done driver training with people who have gotten chairs and scooters, of friends of mine, and have taught them how to scan for those things and be watching, because people don't watch for you.
why do you think people don't see you?
Why don't people see me? Because I'm shorter. I'm shorter than most kids. I don't think there's as many people. Well, there's lots of people in wheelchairs. I just don't know. I just don't think it's like as common as people walking through a mall, right? You don't see hundreds of wheelchairs shopping at the same time. If you do, then there's lots of oohing and ahhing, but you know what I mean? Like you don't see that many people all the time, so we're just not at the top of people's thoughts.
Do you feel that people often avoid you because you're in the scooter?
Sometimes people don't know what to do or what to say. Makes people uncomfortable. You know, often just a friendly smile, a greeting, hi, will loosen them up and let them know that you're approachable. You know, which is normally who I am anyway. Children, I always let them approach, because parents are, you know, they don't want to offend you. They don't want to offend, because we've gotten very politically correct where, you know, if the kid asks a question, you know, don't ask that. I'm like, it's okay if they ask questions. I would rather discuss it and be open about, you know, who I am. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that, though.
Yeah.
So it's respecting that. If they say they don't want to answer your questions, respect that as well.
Of course. Now, one of the parts of this project here is that I'm going to be putting a message board on the back of the chair. It would take a short message of about 140 letters. Can you think of some statements that you would just love everybody to read?
I tend to be a smartass, just so you know. So I would keep it clean, because of course there's lots of kids that would be reading that, obviously. But things like, you know, no, I didn't drive into you, you tripped over me, or you backed into me. I would more than likely try to keep it positive, because I think if you are negative and you send off miserable messages, then that's who they think you are. So I would probably, it'd be nice reminders. I don't know exactly what they would be, but nice reminders of, you know, watch where you're walking. You know, please pay attention to where your children are, because often they'll go and they will dart from behind clothing racks or between counters, and if you're, I mean, it's my responsibility to go slower and be watching for them, but it's their responsibility to keep their kids safe too, right? So things like that I think would be, I would try to keep it humorous though, and just those kind of reminders, you know.
Yeah, a little bit of positive humor.
Yeah,
kind of.
positive humor rather than you know, yelling or swearing at people and saying, you know, geez, don't you watch where you're walking, you know, which are the things I would be thinking, but I would never say that to somebody, because I don't want people, that's not who I am, so I would try really hard not to do that.
Okay.
And I wouldn't change it when I was in a bad mood.
As tempting as that may be.
As tempting as that might be.
Yeah.
Messages though for, you know, even for paratransit drivers is, you know, don't worry, I know how to drive. You know, because paratransit drivers often assume that you don't know how to drive. Or, you know, I don't know, you cab drivers, you know, it's like, here, let me drive for you. No, I'm quite capable of driving my chair. Thank you. And when I first got the chair, my saying was, touch my stick and I break your fingers. Well, because it's my space.
Yes.
It's like, it would be like reaching into your shirt pocket without asking you. As far as I'm concerned, this is my space, and I didn't touch your space.
Yeah.
And I don't touch mine.
Yeah, when my daughter was in the chair, I was telling her, you don't let people touch your chair without your permission. Is that an accurate sentiment?
Yes, that's just for where I work, which is an independent living center. That's part of being respectful of people's disabilities. Is this is my space. This is my bubble, and you don't lean on other people's chairs. You don't use it to hang your stuff without asking. You don't, use it as a armrest without asking, because it's just disrespectful. It's just not being respectful of the other person. It's just like, taking somebody's crutches and using them. You don't do that without asking.
Okay.
It's not a toy.
All right. Now, one of the issues with the wheelchairs and the community is this concept of accessibility. What exactly does that mean to you?
Accessibility. Accessibility to me means having the thought put into it before something is built, or when it's being designed, or when it's being renovated, as to not just physical accessibility either. It's got to be accessible for multiple disabilities. They have something called universal design, which we talk about a lot here at Silk, which is where, it's accessible, where doors have braille on them, or they have different colored doors so that people who have visual impairments can distinguish between walls and doors and things like that. Accessibility, it just means taking into account the people who aren't necessarily the norm and what their needs might be, and asking them, not deciding for them what they need. I think that's the biggest part.
Okay. Are there some well-known places in Regina that have little pet peeves for you when it comes to accessible, where what they consider accessible, you don't?
Where would we start? Any restaurant that has a bathroom that they claim is accessible. That would be my first start. Second would be the places, especially malls like the Cornwall Center, who have accessible buttons on their doors that don't work.
Where you push the button and the door doesn't open.
And it's bad enough you push the button and you have to run for the door, but when you push the button, run for the door, and the door doesn't open. And that happens a lot, that they have the signage that says it's accessible. They have the buttons, but it's either shut off, not been fixed, whatever. It's broken, it's frozen up because of the snow. Those kind of things. Those are huge issues. Cleaning your sidewalk and not cleaning the ramp at the end of the sidewalk. So they pile all the snow right where the ramp would be. It happens everywhere. And it's like you get all the way down the block and then you're stuck because you can't get through the snowbank at the accessible corner.
Right.
I don't know, I don't think I would, there's not a specific place. It's just those kind of issues that,
But they're very common.
They're very common. It's like going to a gas station and it has the accessible ramp, and then right between the accessible ramp and the door is the pile of propane tanks, which blocks you from entering the gas station. Or the bathrooms.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. So, yeah.
All right. Is there anything that you'd like to say that I haven't asked about?
I am just really glad that accessibility is becoming a priority, and it's becoming a normal part of the inclusion process. Because if you think how many 100 years ago, people were not even out and about. If you were in a wheelchair, you just were put away and never talked about. And so there's progression, there is progress happening. I just like to see, I'm glad to see that it's more on the priority list. I would argue with Pat Fiacco about his percentage of snow removal success last year and the year before, but the fact that it's on people's agendas and it's part of the thinking that's going on, that means that it's moving higher up on the priority list, and that makes me happy.
Okay. And one last question I'll ask you is this. Some employers balk at the idea of the expenses of making things accessible or hiring people with disabilities. How easy is it to modify jobs to make them accessible to people of all abilities?
I think people with disabilities are the most innovative people. guarantee if you hired a person with a disability, you have hired a person who wants to work, that they are dedicated, they're motivated, for the most part. I won't speak for not every person, but for the most part, they're motivated, they have initiative, and they are the best problem solvers you will ever hire. So for accommodations, most of the accommodations that people, I work at a place where, I don't know, about 75 or 80% of us are people with disabilities, and all types of disabilities. And accommodation can be as easy as, a modified, work schedule. It can be, my example, I needed a filing cabinet that was raised up a little higher because of my new chair. The stand, we found somebody to build it, raised it up, it cost $50.
And in exchange, you get a very motivated worker.
Yeah, yeah. I think software and things like that are more expensive, but you have a staff person who will do a really good job. And I don't think that it's as huge of a downside for employers. I don't see that at all. I think that little bit of, and if you ask the staff what they would need, they will likely be able to tell you.
Right down to the exact detail, I'm guessing.
Probably. Well, I need this here, I need this there, I need this moved, I need this higher, I need this lower. It's about having conversation with people and asking what they need, not deciding, hiring Sandy would be, it'll cost a lot because you probably need a lot of accommodation, and there's a lot of assumptions that happen. So just taking assumptions out of the equation.
All right. Because we don't know, we don't want to make assumptions.
No, assumptions are 95% wrong, I would say, when you come to people with disabilities.
All right. And any final thoughts, Sandy?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.